Well, welcome today to another edition of Christ in Culture. My name is Pastor Jeff Short, and today we're going to talk about something that is so outrageous that it's hard to believe that this is happening in the United States. It's hard to believe that it even needs to be talked about, but we're seeing more and more celebrities who are getting up in front of people at award ceremonies or in front of big crowds, and they're pledging their allegiance or they're thanking or they're glorifying the devil himself, Satan or Lucifer. They're giving credit to the devil for their success and all of these ridiculous signs of acclamation to the devil. Now, when we look at these, the latest manifestation of this sick cultural practice is during the Golden Globe Awards, the movie actor Christian Bale, and remember, he's named Christian. Whether that has anything to do with this or not, I don't know, but it could be a sign of rebellion. But his Christian Bale, he's an Australian movie actor, and he won a Golden Globe Award, and he went forward, and at the end of his acceptance speech, he said he wanted to thank Satan for this award. In an obvious attempt to mock Christians who often say, I would like to thank the Lord, I would like to thank God for this award, I would like to thank Jesus. Well, here is a actor, a Hollywood prime grade A actor. He's in a lot of movies these days, one of the top 20 actors in Hollywood probably today. And he gets up in front of the award audience and says he wants to thank the devil for this award in the same manner and tone that people go up there and thank the Lord God Almighty for their award. And it's an obvious mockery of Christianity. It's an obvious attempt to make fun of people who thank the Lord for their successes. Now, why would he want to do that? And why would anybody want to do that? For example, I remember seeing a video clip on YouTube of the former front lead singer for the rock band Queen, Freddie Mercury. He was up in front of an audience of thousands and thousands of fans, and he held out his hand and he said, "See, I have a new ring. The devil himself gave it to me. The devil himself gave me this ring." And obviously he was going on about how basically he made a bargain with the devil, and the devil gave him a ring, and he said it was the devil himself. I mean, obviously an attempt to make a joke, make something funny, mock the real Lord of life, God Almighty, and just throw in the devil. Now, why do these people want to do that? Why do celebrities, and that's what usually is the case. It's a celebrity, it's an actor, or it's a musician, or it's someone in the public eye. Why do they do that? Why do they throw the devil, Satan, Lucifer? Why do they speak his name? Why do they say anything about this? What would be their motives for doing such outrageous, outlandish, blasphemous speech in public? Well, I thought about this, and there are a few different motives that they might have. There might be some that I have missed, but these are some of the basic ones. I think they might just be making a outrageous joke. They're just trying to be funny. They just want to make fun of something. They just want to be outlandish. They just want to get attention. And and that would be the second motivation. The first one would be they want to make a joke. They just want to be funny. They want to say something funny. They want to say something that might make somebody chuckle. It's so outrageous. It's so outlandish. it's so odd and so out of place that it might cause some people to laugh. And so they're just trying to get a laugh. And that's probably why Freddie Mercury, for example, when he made that comment at a Queen concert, he was probably just joking around. He was just telling a joke. He was trying to be a jokester. He was trying to be someone sarcastic joke and get a laugh or get, say something clever. That's what he was trying to do. And he thought it was funny. Now, it's not funny because it's dealing with something that's very important and very serious. We're talking about the number one enemy of God Almighty. We're talking about an angel that was very close to God at one point in history, and then he turned away in rebellion against God and led countless other angels away from God. So this is not something that's funny. It's not something that you would laugh at. Nothing the devil does or ever will do are things that we would want to laugh about, except, of course, if you're going to mock the devil. C.S. Lewis, in one of his books, and he wrote a famous book dealing with the devil, sort of a satire, Screwtape Letters, and he said the number one thing that the devil hates is to be laughed at. But the thing about these celebrities, when they invoke the devil's name, they're usually not laughing at the devil. They're usually trying to make fun of Christianity, or they're trying to make fun of people's faith in God, or they're just trying to be funny, but they're not thinking of themselves as actually mocking the devil. If they were doing that, then that would be perfectly legit. And in fact, that would go along with what C.S. Lewis says, that, the number one thing that the devil hates is when you mock him or laugh at him. But these celebrities are not doing that. They're laughing, they're joking, and they're using the devil not to mock him, but to mock something else. And so it's not funny. It's never funny when these people do this, but it could be because they're trying to be funny. Now, the other thing I mentioned, number 2, is that they may be doing this to get attention, to get headlines. The old saying is the only thing worse than bad publicity is no publicity. It's like the only thing worse than bad attention is no attention. So maybe they want to make the headlines. And he did. Christian Bale, it was a fairly ho-hum evening at the Golden Globe Awards, as reported. But there was that one incident when Christian Bale thanked the devil for his award, and that made the headlines. So maybe these people are doing it to get attention. Maybe Christian Bale said, hey, I need some attention, I need some publicity, I need my name in the papers, and I can't think of any better way to do it than maybe just make some kind of a ironic comment about thanking the devil for the award or whatever, thanking Satan for the award. And he knew that people would talk about it. It might have even been a plan that his publicist hatched, and then he agreed to go along with it. I don't know. It just all depends on, what the motive was. But if it was that he wanted attention, he got it. And so you can get attention, I guess, in the right circumstance by invoking the name of the devil. You can be so outrageous and offensive. Maybe another thing, he might have wanted to be a third category. It was not just he wanted to get attention. Maybe he wanted to be offensive. Maybe he wanted to offend Christians. Maybe he wanted to offend people who love God and honor God and take the Bible seriously. Maybe he wanted to offend them for some reason. I don't know why. I do realize that, and we all know that we're in a Western culture that is going down, down, down in its moral values and its spirituality it's declining. Church attendance is steadily going down in most Western countries. If you look at Europe, it's almost in shambles spiritually. I think less than 5% in most countries of people even bother to attend a church on Sunday morning. They feel it's perfectly okay to never gather for worship or never gather for prayer, never gather for hearing the Word of God. They just neglect all of that stuff. It's not important to them. And so the secularization process is pretty well underway in most Western nations. It's also that way in the United States, although attendance is still higher here than it is in Europe on Sunday mornings. But maybe these celebrities want to mock Christianity for a number of different reasons. I think I'm seeing the growing hatred for Christianity in a lot of different areas of society because of, for example, right now we have this priestly sexual abuse scandal that's coming back into the Roman Catholic Church. We had this thing in 2001, 2002, this pedophile priest problem, and it was a big mess. These priests had abused children, and it put a black eye on the Catholic Church, and then they dealt with it, supposedly, and here we are now 17, 18 years later, and we have a second wave of priestly abuse problems, and these now are dealing with more of the young people and young adults, seminary age, where these priests and sometimes even bishops and cardinals were preying on these young men because they had power over them. And so we have another round of scandals in the Roman Catholic Church, and there are a lot of Roman Catholics who are really hating their church, and they're really rebelling against their church. So I don't know anything about Christian Bale. I don't know anything of his history, but maybe he is a former Roman Catholic. Maybe he was raised in a Catholic church. Maybe he went to Catholic schools. Who knows? And he is angry and bitter at the church, and so he wanted to offend Christians of all stripes. See, that's the problem. It talks about in the Bible when one part of the body is injured, then the other parts suffer too. And for better, for worse, if the Catholic Church is going through a scandal, it's going to hurt all the other different churches. Even the really solid Bible-believing churches, people are going to take the attitude, well, they're all the same. They're all irresponsible, greedy, hypocritical leaders. They're going to disrespect anyone who gets up in front of the church on Sunday morning. They're all going to label them with the same label as they do the offending people. So maybe Christian Bale is trying to offend Christians because he's angry and bitter at the church, or he's angry at God. Maybe something happened in his life that he turned away from God because of something that God let happen in his life, or because he couldn't get his way and didn't like to feel that God was displeased with him or what he was doing. I don't know. I do know that there are a lot of celebrities and high-profile people who, unfortunately, have even made a pact with the devil, and so that's a fourth possibility, and that is when you have these celebrities and these high-profile people going up in front of people and making absurd, stupid, insane, outlandish statements about thanking the devil for their awards. It could be that they actually are doing that. They're actually doing it in sincerity. And people are laughing and joking and thinking it's a joke, but maybe it's not a joke. I remember there's a story about one of the pioneers of rock and roll, a guy named Robert Johnson, an African-American young man in the South. And the story goes that he used to hang out with a bunch of musicians, but he never could play the guitar very well. He was always banging on the guitar, and people said, turn that guy off. Take that guitar away from me. He's terrible. He's awful. Don't want to hear that noise. And then Robert Johnson left and went someplace for 6 months and came back, and all of a sudden this guy's the best guitar player around. And he can just play anything on the guitar. And the story is that one day he went out to this intersection of two country streets way out in the fields, and it's called the Crossroads, and he made a bargain with the devil. He made a pact with the devil. He sold his soul to the devil to be able to play the guitar. And the story goes, after that bargain that he made with the devil, he could play the guitar better than anyone around, and that was instrumental in starting the whole rock and roll movement, the early days, and the same kinds of sounds that we hear today are basically coming from that sound that Robert Johnson began to strum on his guitar way back then. And that, you know what's a really sick thing about it is that there are top name rock and roll guitarists who have written songs about the Crossroad and have actually, some of these guys, big name guitarists in these hard rock bands, especially in the 80s and 70s and 80s, who actually have gone out to that crossroads, those streets, those roads, and have gone out there to see where this Robert Johnson made a pact with the devil. And, you know, the whole idea of making a deal with the devil is not something that came up with Robert Johnson. It's been around for hundreds of years. The story of Faustus, and the German writer came up with the story of Dr. Faustus, who made a deal with the devil and sold his soul to the devil. Now, the thing about Robert Johnson, the pioneer of rock, was that he was always writing songs about the devil is on his heels, and the hounds of the hounds of the devil are after him, and he's always running and trying to stay one step ahead of the devil. In other words, he understood that there was coming a day when the devil would require his soul. The devil was going to come for payment. And there's that whole imagery of, yeah, you sell your soul to the devil for this thing, but then there's always going to be payday. And there's one day you're going to run into the devil, and he's going to say, guess what? I want you to pay with your soul. Your soul's mine because we made that deal. Well, it could be that these celebrities, some of these celebrities, in fact, actually made a pact with the devil so that they could become famous and rich and successful. And so when they get up there and they talk about, you know, they owe this all to the devil, maybe that's actually true. Maybe they have been involved in some kind of an agreement with the devil in some way, shape, or form, some spiritual pact that they made, and that they are actually literally thanking him for it. And now it could have been that's what Freddie Mercury did when he said that the devil gave him a ring, and he, of course, most people would take it as a joke. Most people would just take it as some kind of a goofy, silly thing to say to get attention and to offend people or whatever. But it could be that some of these guys are actually telling the truth, that they actually want to show their gratitude to the devil for helping them achieve some worldly, earthly position, you know, whether it's the top of the rock and roll world, or whether it's some acting pinnacle that they've achieved. You know, some of these people no doubt have sold their soul to the devil. It's not unheard of. So that could be one of the motives. But the thing about this whole glorifying or thanking the devil phenomenon that we see happening more and more is that it's a sign that our culture is rejecting God more and more. It's a sign of a secularized culture. Because in the older days, at least, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't say that in public because you wouldn't want to offend Christians. You wouldn't want to offend your family. You wouldn't want to offend brother or sister or your spouse. Or in the old days, people who were even devil worshipers wouldn't come out in public and actually proclaim their allegiance to the devil, or come out in public and praise the devil, or thank the devil, or do any of these kind of activities, because there was a social stigmatism against it. They would be ostracized. Not only would it be offensive, but the general public would be outraged. In the older Europe, up until probably 100 years ago, there might even be some on the books now, there used to be blasphemy laws. And there were things that you couldn't even utter in public that are so offensive, that are so outrageous, that you would not be able to utter them. And now we do have laws. For example, we see in Germany right now that you cannot hardly utter the name Hitler or the Nazis, or you definitely can't use it in the context of a joke or mocking. There was a Chinese tourist in Germany a couple years ago that wanted the other people in his group to take a picture of him, and so he stood in front of this statue in Germany and he gave the Nazi salute and he said, "Heil Hitler." And that simple act got him arrested by the German police and thrown in jail and fined. And it was a big deal in a court case and everything else. Why? Because this is something that you cannot say in Germany because of the memory of Hitler and all of the negative connotations with that. It is illegal to even joke about Heil Hitler and give that Nazi salute. It is even illegal to do that in public. You can't do it. Now, we can look at that and go, wow, boy, those Germans really are offensive, and they're offended by that. Yeah, they are, because their country was basically destroyed and ruined, and it almost just wiped out their entire country because this madman Hitler tried to lead them into world conquest. And it was a terrible, awful memory in their history. And so they're real sensitive about that. So you can't utter that in Germany. Well, it used to be that way in the Western nations about blasphemy laws. There were things that you could not stand up in public and mock God or swear against God or curse God in public or curse Jesus Christ or whatever. You just couldn't do these certain things because it was blasphemy and it's so offensive to the population. Well, today we are so secularized, we're so rebellious against God, we're so rejecting of God as a culture, as a whole, that you can have these celebrities stand up in public at an award ceremony and say they want to thank Satan for this accomplishment. And instead of being run out of town on a rail, instead of being strung up or tarred and feathered or beat up, or their career was ruined. I mean, years ago, think about this. Years ago, if somebody had done that at an award ceremony, even in Hollywood, if they had done something like that, given the thanks to Satan, their career would have probably been over. Because mainstream America, the people who actually go to movies, who buy the tickets, or who listen to music on their radios or buy the music themselves, would not have ever wanted to do anything to do with that artist or that actor because of that utter offensiveness that he would dare get up in front of someone and thank the devil, even in a joke, even if he was just goofing around. Just like it is in Germany when you talk about Hitler, you don't joke about that stuff. You don't joke. Their country almost was ruined, completely obliterated because of that. that man. And so it's not a joking matter. And you can think of things in your own life that you don't joke about because they're either painful or they're awful memories or hurtful or whatever. Every culture has those things in their life that are very important and sacred to them. Well, God and His name and His Jesus Christ are sacred. And when you have someone in public going up and really committing blasphemy, that's what Christian Bale and Freddie Mercury and others actually do. It's a form of blasphemy. It's not a direct form. They're actually not putting their fist in the air and cursing God. There were some famous atheists who would do that, and there are people who will do that today. There are rock and roll bands who will actually lead. I heard about a rock band who actually led the audience in a pledge to Satan. And more of these outrageous things. Now, that never would have happened in past generations, but it's happening today, and it just shows you the decadence of our culture today. And that's why we need to pray that God sends a mighty, powerful spiritual revival to our culture before it's too late. Because what's going to happen is that, just like in the case of Sodom and Gomorrah, it's said that the cry to heaven became so great that God had to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. The cry to heaven. Now, there's always been a controversy. Okay, what is this cry, and who cried, and where did this cry originate? The cry to heaven. The cry to heaven that cries out for vengeance. Who was doing this? Was it angelic cry? Were the angels of heaven looking down on earth and just crying out to God, you've got to do something about this Sodom and Gomorrah, you've got to do something? Or was it the people of the land who were crying out to God for vengeance? We're not exactly sure, and that's something for debate. But think about it. If you have enough of these celebrities and you have enough population who are willing to blaspheme God more and more and are actually willing to thank and glorify the devil in public, it's not very long until God has had enough of that, and He's going to come down and destroy this country, actually destroy this country. And we know now we have enough nuclear bombs and everything else on this planet to actually kill every single person in this country, destroy it, if there were enough crazy people who would push those buttons. And so the means are there, naturally speaking, but God can do anything of His own power anyway. So we need to pray for this nation, pray that it turns back to God before it's too late. Well, I hope that's helped explain some things, and we'll see you back next week on another edition of the program. God bless.